I think the IMF is definitely scared of Bitcoin because they are a fiat organization. For those people that don't know, they have their own shitcoin. It's called the
SDR.
Yeah, SDR, Strategic Drawing Rights, which means they can just kind of print their own money out of thin air too. But with Bitcoin, they're irrelevant, or they need to adopt Bitcoin. It's their choice. Either you adapt or you die. But I think there's another darker angle here, which is they're basically a loan shark. Their job is to lend money in perpetuity to countries like El Salvador and, developing places around the world. And this kind of puts them out of a job. So I think they had to fight for that, or they wanted to save face, because remember, they made a big stink about all the Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador, that, you're going to fail, it's dangerous and whatnot. And when they're wrong and they're incorrect and the metrics prove them incorrect, vastly incorrect, I think they need something to save face. So maybe they insisted on these concessions just so they can say, yes, we got something. The whole way that government works right now is very flawed. And I think about this a lot because I work on a game set in the future. So I'm trying to think, how does government work in the future? And there are differing schools of thought. Some Bitcoiners think anarchy, and it's just a free-for-all. I think you still need some structure in place because there will be bad people that do bad things, and you need to be able to deal with that somehow. And I think there will still be a need for relationships with other groups, like diplomacy. So I think there is some role for government, very scaled back, very administrative, not prescriptive in many ways, and based off of some sort of foundational codex of laws that's far simplified and mirroring a bit of Bitcoin. So consensus-based rules where to do something, you need a supermajority to consent to it. So there is no war, no emergency act, no martial law able to be done without active consent of people. So that's probably somewhere we go, but definitely Bitcoin will change that relationship because they can't print money, they can't take your money, so they just shrink naturally. And I think this is a good thing.
영상에 등장하는 인물은 샘슨 모우라는 인물입니다. 세계 최대 비트코인 거래소 및 채굴풀의 운영을 감독하며 비트코인 거래 및 채굴 생태계에 기여하면서 블록스트림의 CSO로서 블록체인 기술 개발, 특히 리퀴드 네트워크와 같은 사이드 체인 비트코인 솔루션 출시하며 동시에 젠3의 CEO로 엘살바도르의 비트코인 채택 전략 자문과 비트코인 채권 설계에 관여하며 국가 차원의 비트코인 채택을 촉진한 비트코인 관련해서는 엄청난 인사이트를 가진 인물입니다. 그는 2025년에 비트코인이 100만 달러에 도달할 것이라는 예측으로 다소 파격적인 예측을 한 인물로 알려졌는데요. 오늘 인터뷰 영상에서 그의 의견을 들어보시죠.
Because most of the problems we have today is the government is trying to do everything. It starts out slowly, but as you give people free stuff, they want more free stuff. And it just spirals out of control where you have some of those things uncovered by the Department of Government Efficiency, which is the Treasury was just paying bills indiscriminately to terrorists too. So it just becomes a big machine that lives off of its own bureaucracy. The Trump admin coming into power and formulating this path to a reserve has made it easier yet again for us.
What do you think happens to the price of Bitcoin if the strategic Bitcoin reserve thing does go through in the United States? It looks like it's going to happen on the state level before the federal level.
Well, as Adam Back says, that's the path to 1 million.
$1 million Bitcoin, Samson. When's that going to happen?
My guess is it's going to be this year.
It's going to be this year.
You look at all the factors that we're facing. You have...
That's a 10x.
Bitcoin has 17x in the past. There is no upper bound to Bitcoin. So there are people talk about diminishing returns, right? But if it's a step change, just like the failure of the German mark, it's not a gradual thing and there's no upper bound. It's just gone. And you use a new thing now, right? We came here on a car or on airplanes and whatnot. So we used to use the new thing. And Bitcoin is that new thing because it's 100, if not 1,000 times better than anything else we've used as money in human history. So I just can't see it not hitting 1 million this year. And the other thing is, you see a lot of people predicting prices, right? They like to be cautious and realistic and say, yeah, it can get to 150. it can get to 200. It can get to 250. Because I think they want to sound reasonable. Nobody wants to be the crazy guy saying it's going to 10x, like me. They want to be, I'm a serious person with realistic projections. But Bitcoin is not a realistic thing. It's a zero-sum game. Either you're going to use Bitcoin or you're going to starve. So it's all or none. And when you get to different levels, like when you get to 100K, it's different, right? When you get to 200K, the world again looks very, very different. Just close your eyes and imagine, what does the world look like when Bitcoin is at 500K? That's we're reaching half of gold's market cap at that point. But disregard that. Bitcoin is sitting at 500K. We are the second largest asset now, behind gold. It's a very different landscape. And at that point, do you think most people would still want to sell their Bitcoin to get fiat? Or would most people now insist on being paid in Bitcoin? I think it's the latter. So from there, you just 2x.
Yeah.
And then you're number one. But overall, Bitcoin is undervalued. And I think even at 100K, 150, 200, it's still undervalued. So there's two things I would say. One is there are obviously OGs or old hodlers that are going to sell something, maybe enjoy life a bit. So there will always be some coins that are sold outside of the mine supply. But there's also roughly 2 million coins that sit on exchange for market making, trading, and arbitrage. And those 2 million coins, it's dropping obviously. Now it was at more than 2 million before, but now it's at around 2 million. But that is enough for the coins to drop the market. And a lot of it has to do with Bitcoin being a 24/7 market as well. So this drop, I believe, is related to the tariff war. American, Canadian, Mexican, we're all going to tariff each other. And it's just panic. So Bitcoin being the only 24/7 liquid market is the only thing that can react immediately. So it's sort of like the market sentiment is taken out on Bitcoin. We're the first to move, the most volatile, and the biggest move. And then the equities markets and everything else follows after that when the markets open. Such an antiquated concept, right? But that's what it is. But going back to the point, those 2 million coins is enough to move the market a little bit. And the impact of those 2 million coins, I believe, is becoming less and less pronounced as we increase hodling. Well, there's just so much demand for Bitcoin right now from MicroStrategy, from the ETFs, from nation states, from ordinary people buying and hodling, that I don't think people have fully realized that most of the year's supply of mined Bitcoin is already gone a few times over. So you have to understand there is ultimate scarcity in Bitcoin. And I believe the understanding of ultimate scarcity is very far away still. People just can't wrap their heads around there only being 21 million. And when the price drops, people kind of feel confident that I can get it later. But then Bitcoin rips and then there is no later. Like imagine being able to buy Bitcoin at $10,000 a coin. Again, it's not possible. And this milestone of 100,000 will be gone again in time.
개인 투자자들이 저점을 잡기란 정말 쉽지 않습니다. 누구나 우상향하는 자산을 저렴한 가격에 사고 싶지만 굉장히 어려운 일인데요. 화폐를 제외한 한정된 자산들을 보면 항상 화폐의 가치보다 우상향했기 때문에 비트코인이라는 자산이 어쩌면 가난한 사람들이 부자가 될 수 있는 마지막 기회일지도 모릅니다. 오늘도 시청 감사합니다.